Hi, everybody. Tonight, let's close our eyes and drift slowly through the veil of time to a world where silence echoed louder than thunder and the sky itself seemed to mourn. Imagine this. You close your eyes in the warm embrace of the 21st century, bright screens, humming cities, laughter through speakers, and when you open them, it's the year 536. Yes, 536. They say it was the worst year to be alive. But let's not rush. Let's settle in as we gently unfold this strange and forgotten world together, chapter by chapter, with the soft rhythm of history breathing beside us. In this story, you are not an observer. You are the traveler, the dreamer, the one who wakes up in the cold, gray dawn of the darkest time humanity has ever known. Let me tell you how it begins. The light is wrong. That's the first thing you notice. Not the cold, not the damp earth beneath your palms, not the strange quiet. It's the light, or rather the absence of it. A thin veil of gray coats the sky, like soot from an eternal fire stretching horizon to horizon. The sun, a muted disk, hangs low, pale as bone. It offers no warmth, no glare, and no comfort. It looks like the kind of sun you might see in a nightmare, a sun that doesn't know how to shine. Your breath fogs the air. It's bitterly cold, colder than it should be in spring. You rub your arms, looking around. You're in a clearing, surrounded by twisted trees, their branches bare and trembling in a wind that bites to the bone. There's no road, no buildings, no noise of cars, planes, or people, only the whisper of the wind and the distant, eerie cry of something wild. You stumble forward, trying to get your bearings. Everything is unfamiliar. The smell of the air, heavy, earthy, almost metallic. The silence, so complete that your own footsteps sound too loud. The sky, always the sky, blanketed in ash. Your clothes mark you instantly as a stranger. You are dressed for a modern world that no longer exists. You're not wearing wool or leather or homespun linen. You have no fire starter, no food, no map. Just the strange hum of fear in your chest and a growing awareness that something is terribly, terribly wrong. As you walk, you begin to see signs of life, though not in the way you hoped. A collapsed stone wall, half buried under moss. A shattered clay pot near a worn path. And then far in the distance, a figure, small, hunched, cloaked in layers. You approach. The woman sees you before you can speak. Her face is gaunt, not just thin, but hollowed. Her eyes are wary, sunken. Her skin carries the gray pallor of someone who has not felt the sun on her face in months. She says something. Latin? Greek? Old Irish? You can't tell. It's a tongue you don't recognize. She steps back. You realize how alien you must look to her. You try to speak, but your voice feels loud and strange in this place. Where am I? She frowns. Then slowly, she raises a finger to the sky, not pointing to the heavens, but to the haze, that terrible gray cloak that smothers everything. Dark, she says in a word that cuts through the centuries like a whisper carved in stone. The sun is gone. And that's when it begins to settle in. This isn't a dream. Or if it is, it's the kind that doesn't let go. You're in a time when the world was plunged into shadow, when crops failed, when kingdoms trembled, when people looked to the sky and wept. You are in 536 AD, and it's not a good time to be alive. You find shelter by nightfall, a narrow hut near the edge of a thin forest likely abandoned. The inside smells of mildew and ash, but it's shelter. You curl into yourself, trying to sleep, but your thoughts churn. What happened? Why is the world like this? Through the creaks and groans of the wind against the wooden walls, your mind begins to unspool fragments you've read, heard, half remembered. You recall a historian, Byzantine. What was his name? Procopius. He wrote that the sun gave forth light without brightness like the moon for nearly a year. A volcanic eruption maybe, or more than one. Somewhere in the far north, in Iceland perhaps, or the Pacific Ring of Fire. The ash would have circled the globe, blotting out the sun, lowering temperatures, starving fields of light and warmth, and with no light, no harvest, with no harvest, no food, and with no food, you close your eyes. By morning, hunger claws at you. You venture out, following a foot-worn path. In the distance, smoke curls upward from a thatched village. It's your best chance. As you approach, you see them. People, hunched against the cold, their clothes patched and weather-beaten. Children with too large eyes and too small limbs. Everything is gray, mud, sky, skin, even the air itself. A man notices you, his gaze narrows. You raise your hands. Peace. He approaches slowly, cautiously. He speaks. Old Welsh, a dialect of early Breton. It's hard to place, but you pick up the tone: suspicion, wariness, curiosity. You manage one word: help. He doesn't smile, but he gestures you inside. The home is dim but warm. A fire smolders low. A woman offers you a bowl of something, thin, brown, steaming. You drink. It tastes like earth and bitterness and old roots, but it warms your chest. They speak in low tones. You don't understand, but you feel the emotion: fear, exhaustion, resignation. They think the gods are angry, or perhaps it's the end of days. The priests say one thing, the wise women another, but none know how to fix it. The darkness has been here for over a year now. Sometimes the sun tries to return. It glows faintly through the haze, but never fully, never warmly. It's like a ghost of the sun, and so they live in cold shadow. They bury their dead in shallow graves and mark the days by pain, not calendars. Every week someone disappears, or dies, or simply gives up. And now, you are one of them. Outside, the wind moans like a wounded animal. You wrap the borrowed woolen cloak tighter around your shoulders and look out at the world. This was a turning point in history, a moment when everything broke, when empires faltered, and nature reminded humanity just how fragile it really was. You've fallen into the middle of it, and this is only the beginning. You wake with a start. The fire has gone out. The ashes glow faintly, but there is no heat. The cold presses against your skin like a second layer of flesh, and for a moment, you forget where you are. Then it returns, slow and heavy, the strange tongue, the sunless sky, the hollow faces of strangers. The year 536. You push yourself up and look around the hut. The man and woman who took you in are asleep, wrapped tightly in furs and old wool. The child, maybe 5 or 6 years old, sleeps in the woman's arms, one skeletal hand clutched around a scrap of linen. Your stomach growls. It's been barely a day, and already your body aches for something more than the thin broth they gave you. Your modern diet, once rich with grains, oils, spices, is no preparation for this meager world. The people here survive on little: a handful of grains, dried roots, and bitter herbs foraged from a dying forest. Sometimes, if they're lucky, a scrap of meat, rat, bird, or worse. You quietly step outside. The village lies in stillness. Smoke seeps from the low roofs of the other huts. The ground is frozen stiff, a patchwork of brittle mud and scattered straw. The sun hangs where it always does now, dim, directionless, like a dying ember in the sky. As you wander, you hear a sound, soft, rhythmic. You follow it, stepping past a cluster of crumbling walls and into what once might have been a garden. There, kneeling in the frozen dirt, is an old man. His fingers, blue with cold, are sifting through the soil, turning it over, searching. He doesn't look up. You approach slowly, not wanting to startle him. His hands are raw, his nails broken, but he moves with the precision of ritual. You realize what he's doing. He's looking for worms. He finds one. Thin, pale, wriggling in the cold. He holds it up to the weak light for a moment, then places it into a leather pouch at his side. Then he goes back to digging. You want to say something, to ask why, but you know the answer already. Worms are food. You walk away. Back inside the hut, the others are waking. The man, his name is Eden, you've learned, rises slowly, joints popping as he stretches. He regards you with the same unreadable look he had yesterday, but there's a flicker of something in his eyes now. Not trust, but perhaps resignation. You're still here after all. He beckons you to follow. Outside, a few others have gathered. They carry baskets woven from reeds and short knives made of iron and bone. You join them as they move toward the woods, past the edge of the village, into the trees where light barely reaches and the wind whispers through dead leaves. Foraging. It's a quiet affair. No laughter, no chatter. Only the sound of boots crunching frost, of fingers breaking through crusted dirt, of breath in the cold air. You follow Adan's lead. He shows you what to look for: nettles, roots, mushrooms that cling to the undersides of old trees. He warns you with gestures when you reach poisonous patches. You nod, grateful. Time stretches thin in the woods. Hours pass like shadows slipping across stone. You fill your sack with what little you can find: 4 small mushrooms, a handful of knotty roots, a sprig of something bitter and green. On the way back, you pass a tree with markings carved into its bark. Symbols, not runes, not letters. Something else, part of a language you don't recognize. You touch them, curious. Aden sees you and gestures sharply. No, he says. The word is clear. You step back. Later you ask the woman, her name is Ellen, about the tree. She looks at you, eyes wide, and crosses herself. It's an old tree, she says in broken Latin. Bad place. Spirits, they leave offerings there now. Food sometimes, teeth, blood. They ask the old ones for mercy, for light. You don't know if she believes it, or if she's simply afraid not to. That night, the village gathers. A fire is lit in the center of the clearing, one of the few times you've seen real flames, not just embers. The people sit in a loose circle, silent, their faces lit in flickers. A boy begins to play a bone flute, high, trembling notes that echo strangely in the night. It's not a song you know. It's older than any melody you've heard, more chant than tune, more plea than art. An elder steps forward. He's wrapped in furs, his beard white and long. He raises his hands and the music stops. He speaks, and though the words are foreign, you understand the shape of them. A story, a tale. It speaks of a mountain that belched fire, of smoke that swallowed the sun, of kings who wept and warriors who fled, of a sky that forgot how to be blue, of a time when the gods turned their faces away. The people listen, not because they don't know the story, but because it must be told again and again, like a charm, like a wound that must be licked open every night just to remember what it means to suffer. When the tale ends, there is no applause, just silence, and then a slow, rhythmic chant begins, soft at first, a hum in the throat, then louder, layered. You feel it, a vibration in your chest, not of music, but of memory, of pain shared and repeated. This is how they endure. You sit among them, wrapped in a stranger's cloak, the taste of nettle soup still on your tongue, and feel the cold seep into your bones. You wonder what happened to the world you knew, to electricity, to warmth, to color. The stars remain hidden, the fire burns low, and the night presses in like a tide that never retreats. Morning comes slowly, as if reluctant to arrive. The sky shifts from charcoal to a pale, dull slate, never fully bright, never truly day. Time here isn't marked by sunlight, but by degrees of grayness, by the smell of smoke on the wind and the rhythm of hunger in the belly. You awaken on the floor of the hut, stiff and aching. Every muscle complains, the straw mat beneath you is damp, and your borrowed cloak itches. But you've slept. That alone feels like a victory. Outside, the village stirs. Quietly, of course, always quietly. Voices remain hushed and footsteps are soft on the frozen ground. No one has the strength for noise. No one dares to break the fragile stillness that seems to bind everything together. Ilan hands you a flat cake of barley, cracked and dry. It's tasteless, but you chew slowly, gratefully. You've begun to learn their gestures, simple signs of thanks, apology, and caution. Words still are hard to come by. The language here is a tapestry of tongues, remnants of Latin, threads of old Celtic, shadows of fading dialects. You catch fragments, echoes, but they remain just out of reach. Adan joins you with two others. He carries a net, knotted with care, its cords worn smooth. He points to the woods, then to the nearby river. His meaning is clear. You go with them. The path to the river is narrow, cutting through brittle brush and twisted trees. The air smells of cold mud and decay. Birds do not sing. Even the insects seem to have forgotten their place. It is a quiet so deep it hums, the kind of silence that grows teeth if you listen too long. When you reach the riverbank, you're surprised to find it unfrozen. It flows slow and thick like old oil, its surface dark and mirrorless. The men wade in carefully, placing the net across a narrow bend where the current weakens. You watch, then step into the cold water, your skin shrinking from the chill. It is a strange thing, helping to fish in a river where no one smiles, where even the water seems reluctant to yield its life. The men work in silence, tugging, anchoring, feeling. No jokes, no camaraderie, just the grim focus of survival. You feel something brush your ankles, swift and slick, a flash beneath the surface. Adan sees it too. He signals. All of you move, lifting the net, straining together. For a moment, there is resistance, a ripple of hope. But when the net breaks the surface, it sags with water, not fish. Empty. They don't react, not visibly. They simply reset the net, shoulders heavy, eyes dull. You help again and again. Hours pass. The sun never rises. Hunger sharpens. Eventually, a single fish is caught. Small, silver gray, barely more than a finger's length. A gift from a reluctant world. You return to the village with the catch wrapped in cloth. It will be boiled with roots and herbs, stretched to feed 5 mouths. There will be no fullness, only enough to prevent collapse. That evening, you sit by the fire with Ellen. She's mending something, a tunic perhaps. The needle is a sliver of bone. Her fingers move with skill born of repetition. You watch, silent. After a while, she begins to speak. Her voice is low, soft, barely more than a murmur. She tells you of her sister. Once, long ago, or maybe not so long, they lived together in a village to the east. When the sky first darkened, they thought it would pass, that the sun would return, that the cold was a storm, not a sentence. But the months dragged on. The crops failed. People fled or fought or faded. Her sister Saris left with a group headed south. Toward warmer lands, they said. Toward sunlight. Toward salvation. No one ever returned. Ellen keeps a small bundle wrapped in linen. Inside, a lock of dark hair, a wooden comb, a stone carved with a spiral. Her sister's things. She unwraps it once a week, touches the objects with reverence, then wraps them again. You don't speak. There is nothing to say. That night, as you lie awake listening to the creak of the wind against the hut's walls, you think of the others who fled, of where they might have gone, of whether they found food, light, or death. You think of your own world, of warm rooms and glowing screens, of coffee and laughter, of cities with lights brighter than stars. You close your eyes and try to remember the sound of traffic. It feels like a myth. The next day, the sickness begins. It starts with the boy, Ellen's son. A cough, deep and wet, that echoes through the hut. He burns with fever, and his breaths come fast and shallow. His eyes glaze. Ellen wraps him in cloth soaked with water from the river. She murmurs to him in song, old lullabies cracked by fear. You try to help, but there is little to do. No medicine, no warmth, only hope and prayer. Others begin to cough too. Adon's sister from the hut nearest the woods stumbles into the clearing with blood on her lips. The elder, once strong in voice, now shakes as he walks. The sickness spreads fast. A shadow within a shadow. There's no word for it, not yet. But you recognize the pattern. Respiratory, highly contagious. Malnourished bodies offer little resistance. You've seen the documentaries. You've read the history. You are inside it now. Ellen tells you to stay away from the boy. Her voice is hard. She doesn't want you sick. You obey, retreating to the edge of the village. You help gather water, chop wood, tend fires, anything that keeps your hands busy, anything to distract from the sound of coughing and the smell of illness that clings to every breeze. At night, the village is quieter than ever. Some don't wake in the morning. Their bodies are carried into the forest, wrapped in old cloth. No ceremonies, no markers, just shallow graves dug with shaking hands. The earth resists, frozen and cruel. You help dig. Your fingers bleed. You do not cry. The sky watches, unmoved. Ash still veils the heavens. The sun is still hidden. The cold is still relentless. And now death walks openly among them, among you. The days begin to blur. Each one carries the same gray hush, the same thin chill. Hunger no longer comes in waves. It's constant now, like a pressure behind your eyes. And fear, once a sharp edge, has dulled into something heavier, slower. A companion you carry silently in your chest. The sickness does not rage, it creeps. The boy, Ellen's son, still breathes, but barely. His limbs are thin and stiff. His cough dry now, hollow. His mother does not leave his side, save for a few minutes each day to fetch water or share what little food remains. Her eyes are rimmed in red, not from tears, but from exhaustion too deep to express. You keep your distance, not just from the hut, but from the others as well. The villagers look at you differently now. You were already strange, your speech, your manner, your clothes, but now you are other. You are unknown. And in a time when death travels by breath, the unknown is dangerous. Adon still allows you to help, but he does not speak to you anymore. One morning, you rise before the others and walk into the woods alone. The air is sharper than usual, and your breath curls around you like smoke. The trees are silent, as always, their bare branches etched against the dead sky. You don't know what you're looking for. Food, perhaps, or peace, or simply distance. You follow the river upstream. It leads you through a narrow gully where moss clings to stone and ice crackles underfoot. At a bend in the path, you find something strange, a circle of stones, arranged with care. In the center, a doll made of twigs, bound with red thread. A charm, maybe, a ward. It leans slightly to one side, like a tired sentinel. You don't touch it. Further on, you discover a broken wagon. Its wood weathered, its iron rusted. Half buried under frost, the contents are mostly decayed. A few scraps of cloth, the remains of a crate. But something catches your eye, a small metal tin, sealed. You pry it open. Inside, salt. You stare for a moment, barely breathing. Salt here is treasure, preserver of food, healer of wounds, a miracle in a box. You wrap it carefully in cloth and make your way back. The village receives it like a gift from the gods. Adon takes the tin with reverence. He sprinkles a pinch over the broth simmering above the fire. The change is subtle, but real. You can taste it. For a moment it feels like something close to comfort. Ellen does not eat. She sits by her son, cooling his forehead with damp cloth. His breathing is more shallow now. His eyes flicker. The illness has settled in his chest. You kneel beside the fire that night, watching the flames with a kind of reverence. There is a stillness in your bones, a weight that is no longer only physical. You try to remember the last time you smiled. You try to remember laughter. You try to remember color. In the morning, the boy is gone. There is no wail, no sobbing. Ellen simply wraps him in linen, her hands slow and deliberate. Aiden helps carry the body. You follow at a distance, through the woods, to a small rise near the riverbank. There, beneath a thin layer of soil, the boy is returned to the earth. A single stone is placed atop the grave, smooth round, the only marker he will have. You stand there longer than the others, staring at the mound. The wind moves through the trees like a sigh. You wonder how many others have been buried in unmarked soil since the sky first darkened. How many names have been lost. Later, Ellen is gone. No one saw her leave. No one heard her footsteps. Her bundle of linen is still in the hut, her comb, her thread, her stone spiral. But she is not there. You search. Others do too. Into the woods, down by the river, past the ancient tree with the carved bark. Nothing. It's Adon who finds her, hours later, near the stones where you found the twig doll. She's lying beside the river, face down in the frost. No wounds, no struggle, just silence. She didn't fall. She chose. The next day, Aiden digs again. The soil is harder now. The ground resists him more than before. But he doesn't stop. His hands bleed, but he doesn't stop. You help, but he doesn't speak. The grave is shallow, the ceremony brief, and then she is gone too. That night, you do not sleep. You lie on your back, staring at the rafters above, listening to the wind move across the roof like the breath of some vast and sorrowful creature. You wonder if she knew, somehow, that this was how it would end. If she looked at the gray sky and decided it would never lift. The villagers speak less with each passing day. Words are rationed now like bread. There is no room for pleasantries, only what must be said. That week, the elder dies, the one who told the stories. His voice once strong, now silenced. His hut is empty. His staff leans against the door frame like an abandoned thought. The boy with the flute no longer plays. You begin to dream in silence. No sound, no voices, just gray fields and wind and the flicker of firelight on walls, faces without names, roads that lead nowhere. Sometimes you see Ellen in your dreams. She walks ahead of you through the woods, her hair loose, her dress trailing behind her like mist. She never looks back. You always follow, always, but you never catch up. The air begins to change. It's not warmer. No, the cold still clings like a second skin, but there is something different in the way it moves. A scent, a tension, a breath before the storm. You notice it first in the mornings when the frost seems sharper, when the light from the sky is tinged faintly with green, like the bruise of a fading wound. The others feel it too. Adon wakes earlier. He sharpens his knife each morning now, long before dawn. The sound is rhythmic, almost meditative, the scrape of stone against iron in the hush of the dying dark. Others speak in tighter circles, glancing toward the woods more often. There is unease in their eyes. It isn't the sickness. That still lingers, low and slow, taking the old, the weak, the unlucky. But this is something else, a different shadow. One evening you return from foraging alone and find the village gathered in the clearing. All eyes are fixed on the edge of the trees. You follow their gaze. A figure stands there, tall, wrapped in thick woolen robes. A hood covers most of the face, but you can see the beard, long, unkempt, gray. He holds a staff twisted like old driftwood. His presence is quiet, still, like stone in a river. No one speaks. Then the elder's apprentice, now the oldest voice among them, steps forward. The exchange is brief, words exchanged in a dialect that feels older than even the village. It rolls like gravel, deep and slow. When it ends, the figure is led to the center of the clearing. He sits by the fire, cross-legged, the staff across his knees. A bowl of broth is placed before him. He eats slowly, deliberately. Everyone watches. You learn later that he is a wanderer, a hermit. He lives in the hills beyond the river, where the ruins of an old monastery sleep beneath frost and moss. Once, long ago, he was a scholar. He served under priests, copied scrolls, mapped stars. But when the sky darkened, he walked into the woods and never returned, until now. That night he speaks. His voice is unlike the others, smooth, measured, dusted with the cadence of learning. The villagers do not interrupt, they do not question, they listen. He speaks of fire, not metaphor, not punishment, real fire. Of a mountain that opened its belly and bled ash into the sky. Of a darkness born of molten stone and bitter winds. He has seen it before, he says. In scrolls, in tales whispered by monks with shaking hands. This is not the first time the sun has failed, but it may be the longest. He tells them that the darkness will pass, but not soon, not in a season, not in a year, perhaps not even in their lifetime. The villagers absorb this like stones absorb rain, slowly, silently, with no outward change. He says there will be storms, not wind, not snow, but hunger and fury and madness. People driven from their lands, wolves with human eyes, the collapse of what little still stands. When he finishes, no one moves for a long time. He stays in the village for 3 days. On the second, he draws in the dirt with his staff, symbols and paths, the marks of the sun, the curve of stars long buried by ash. You watch him, fascinated. It feels like the world speaking in riddles you were never meant to understand. On the third day he leaves. Aiden gives him dried herbs. The boy with the flute offers a stone shaped like a tooth. The man takes both without a word, then vanishes into the woods like smoke. His departure leaves a silence heavier than before. The wind howls louder at night now. You begin to hear things in it. Voices that never quite form words, cries that might be owls or something else. The trees groan. The earth creaks beneath the frost. And then one morning you wake to find tracks in the snow. Not animal, not barefoot. Boots, not from your village. They come from the east and stop near the edge of the clearing. 5 sets, heavy, wide. Too wide. The kind of step that suggests armor or desperation. Eden inspects them with a hard expression. He says nothing, but he reinforces the door to his hut that night with logs and rope. No one ventures far from the fire. Stories begin to surface. Broken, whispered, carried from passing strangers. A village to the south, burned. People taken. Others killed for sacks of barley. Roads patrolled by men without flags, without law. Just hunger wrapped in iron. The world is unraveling. In the months since the sky darkened, famine and disease have crept like mold. But now comes violence. The third wave, the hermit called it. The one that follows after silence and sickness. The wave that screams. 2 days after the tracks are found, the stranger arrives. He walks into the clearing like he owns it. Alone, tall, lean as a blade. His cloak is patchwork, fur, leather, cloth, pieces taken from different places, stitched with no care for pattern. His beard is short, his eyes sharp, a sword hangs at his side. He says nothing, just stands, staring. Edon approaches first, hand on the handle of his axe. They speak. It's not a conversation. It's a measuring. The man asks for food. Edon offers roots and broth. The man takes it, drinks slowly. His eyes move across the village, counting, weighing. That night, he stays near the fire, not in a hut, not with the others, just by the flames, sleeping lightly, as if expecting to be woken by steel. You lie awake, watching shadows shift across the walls, listening. In the morning, he is gone. But a small child, one of the younger girls, is missing too. No one says it aloud. No one wants to. But Aiden's axe is sharper the next day. And a second fire is lit each night, closer to the woods. A watch is set, your sleep grows lighter. The wind carries different sounds now, and the sky is still broken. The watch continues through the nights. It is Adon who begins the rotation, and the others follow. Each night, 2 men sit by the second fire, spears in hand, eyes fixed on the trees. The fire is kept low, just enough to hold back the dark, not enough to give away too much light. Shadows move in the underbrush, and every crack of a twig sends pulses of tension through the camp. You offer to take a shift. At first, they hesitate. Your place here is still uncertain, your purpose still unclear. But eventually, Adon nods. Your first night on watch is cold beyond imagining. You sit beside Bryn, a quiet man with a crooked shoulder and eyes too tired to close. He says little, but offers you a strip of dried bark to chew. It dulls hunger, he tells you, and fear if you're lucky. You listen, to the wind, to the trees, to the faint howls far beyond the hills. You wonder if the world will ever be warm again. At dawn, nothing has happened. And yet something inside you has changed, a quiet unraveling, as if you've joined the rhythm of this new life, a beat of fear, endurance, stillness, a song that began long before you arrived and will continue long after you're gone. The missing child is never found. No one speaks of her anymore. There is no search, no vigil, no name carved into wood. Only silence, a kind of forgetting born from necessity. Grief must be buried as quickly as the dead. To linger is to suffer. To remember too clearly is to shatter. So they let her fade. You try not to. But each time you look toward the woods, you imagine her small frame, swallowed by darkness, her tiny footsteps erased by wind and snow, the stranger's cloak swinging gently as he disappeared into the dawn. Weeks pass, or something close to weeks. Time here is thick. Days blend like smoke in the fog. The sun never rises, just shifts behind its veil, a ghost of warmth that never touches skin. But you mark the days by routine, by the weight of your tasks, the aching in your limbs. You chop wood, you gather herbs, you take your place at the fire. Sometimes when you walk along the river, you find remnants of the old world, shards of broken pottery, collapsed carts, footprints turned to stone by frost. A torn banner with a lion embroidered in gold, its thread stiff and faded. Once you find a skeleton beneath a tree, half buried, arms crossed over its chest. Its cloak still flutters weakly in the breeze. It is easy to forget that these lands once belonged to kingdoms, to empires, to men who ruled by blood and parchment and divine right. Now, only the cold reigns. One day, a traveler arrives. This one is different, not alone, but with a cart drawn by a skeletal horse and a girl who might be his daughter. Their eyes are red with cold, their hands blistered. The girl clutches a wooden doll painted with flaking green and blue. The traveler says he comes from the coast. The sea is no better, he says. The tides are wrong. The fish are gone. The salt stings the air like poison. He trades with the village, an old knife, a length of rope, a spool of thread. In exchange, he receives barley cakes and 2 furs. He does not stay long. Before leaving, he tells a story. A ship came ashore, he says, far to the north. Not a fishing boat, but something different. Wider, blacker. The men on board were ill, eyes swollen, skin blackened at the fingertips. They spoke no known tongue. When they died, their bodies were burned. But the illness did not burn with them. Now, whole towns are falling. He warns the villagers not to travel east. Then he is gone, the girl beside him, the wooden doll clutched tight against her chest. The villagers become more guarded after that. A fence is started, rough stakes driven into the earth around the perimeter. It is slow work, and the ground fights every inch. But it rises day by day, piece by piece, a wall not of stone, but of desperation. You help build it. One night, the firewood runs low, and you venture into the forest with Aiden and Bryn. It is darker than usual. The trees seem to lean inward. The wind is still. The snow crunches like bones underfoot. As you gather branches, Aiden stops suddenly. He kneels. There in the snow are markings, symbols, not prints, not trails, drawings, circles, spirals, a line of crude figures, arms raised, mouths open. They are fresh. Bryn curses under his breath and spits to the side. He draws his knife. Aiden scrapes at the snow, erasing the marks. Then he mutters something low and sharp in a tongue you don't understand, but the tone is clear, warding, banishing. You say nothing. That night, no one sleeps. A second watch is added, then a third. The flute is not played anymore. Evening songs are replaced by silence, and the air grows heavier, not colder, just heavier, as if the sky itself is pressing down. The trees outside the fence are still, but they are not empty. You feel it when you walk alone, a presence, something watching, waiting, and you wonder, not for the first time, if it is only the cold or something far older, far quieter, buried beneath the frost, something that woke when the sun died. The snow begins to fall again, soft at first, like dust, like memory, but soon it thickens, clinging to everything, branches, rooftops, eyelashes. The sky, already pale and ashen, becomes indistinguishable from the earth. The world blurs into a single muted tone, white, gray, silent. There are no storms, no howling wind, just the steady hush of snow accumulating, as if time itself is layering over everything, erasing the edges of the present. The fences, half built and sharp just days before, are now softened, disguised by drifts. The path to the river vanishes. The trees become shapeless ghosts. and with the snow comes stillness. It blankets the village like a shroud. Footsteps are muffled. Voices, already rare, disappear altogether. Even the fires seem quieter, their crackling subdued, reluctant to disturb the quiet. You spend more time inside now. The hut is cramped. The smoke from the hearth curls low, stinging your eyes, clinging to your hair and clothes. You've grown used to the smell, wood smoke and damp wool, iron and earth. Adon's presence is solid, silent. He speaks only when needed and only in short phrases. But you sense something changing in him, a heaviness that's grown deeper than fatigue. You've seen him rise in the middle of the night, pacing outside in the snow, barehanded, face turned toward the woods. Listening. Everyone is listening now. Not for words, not for voices, but for something beneath the silence. The sounds have changed. At night there are cracks that come from within the trees. Not wind, not ice, not animals. Just sudden sharp cracks, sometimes groaning as if something deep below the forest is stirring. Other times the sound of movement, heavy, slow, measured. The villagers know. They don't speak of it, but they know. They sit closer to the fires. They sleep with knives nearby. The old woman in the hut nearest the well has begun to hang sprigs of dried flowers over her door. Yellow petals turned brittle by frost. The boy who once played the flute now keeps a bone talisman around his neck, carved with symbols you've never seen before. One morning, the snow reveals something new. Footprints. Not boot prints this time. Bare feet. Large, deep, not human. They begin just outside the eastern fence and trail toward the woods, vanishing into a dense thicket. The villagers gather in silence, staring. No one speaks. Edon crouches beside them, measuring their width with his palm. He frowns. Too wide, too long, too wrong. He says nothing. That evening, an animal is found dead. A goat, the only one remaining, kept tethered behind the hut closest to the stream. Its throat is torn, not cut, torn. The body is untouched otherwise. No meat taken, no signs of struggle. Just blood frozen into black crystals in the snow. The villagers build a third fire. They form a circle of stones around it. No one explains why. You begin to dream again. But the dreams are different now. No longer just memories. No longer just Ellen walking ahead of you in the fog. Now you dream of the forest, of towering trees that bend and creak, of shapes moving between them, tall, impossibly tall, their limbs dragging behind them like vines soaked in oil. In one dream, you stand in the clearing alone, and the sky is open, not with sun, but with fire. Not burning fire, no smoke, no heat, but cold, bright streaks that fall upward into the dark. A sky that weeps stars in reverse. You wake with frost on your brow. The snow continues. Food runs lower each day. The foragers go out in pairs now, carrying torches even during the day. The river is completely frozen over, a thick crust of dull white with veins of black winding beneath the surface. The fish, if any remain, are trapped far below. You try to keep busy. You weave rope from dried stalks. You help mend furs, stack wood, reinforce the hut walls with clay and moss. But the work no longer wards off the unease. It lingers, a quiet hum at the base of your skull. One evening, Bryn does not return. He left that morning with another forager, a young woman named Canna. They took the southern trail, toward a thicket of pine where mushrooms sometimes grew beneath the bark. Only Canna returns. Her face is pale, her boots soaked in red. She speaks quickly, too quickly. Her words tumble over one another. She says they heard something, breathing, not quite animal, not quite human. That Bryn went to look, that he screamed once. Only once. She ran. Some want to go after him. Aiden says no. You see it in his eyes. He already knows. That night they do not light the third fire. Instead they burn the goat's tether. The rope turns black, then crumbles into dust. The girl who once carried the wooden doll, the one who arrived with the traveler, has begun to draw pictures in the snow. Circles within circles, figures with long arms and no eyes. She doesn't speak anymore, only draws. You ask her what it means. She points to the sky. Then she wipes the drawing away with her hand. The next morning, a strange fog rolls in. Thick, wet, heavy, not mist, not smoke. It tastes like stone, like copper. It wraps around the village, blinding. You cannot see beyond the edge of your fingers. Sounds vanish in it. The fire doesn't crackle, footsteps don't echo. You stay inside, everyone does, even Adon. He sits by the door, axe across his lap, staring into the fog through a small crack in the wood. It lasts all day. No one moves, no one speaks, no one breathes too loudly. When the fog lifts, the snow is gone, not melted, gone. as if it had never fallen. Only the footprints remain. The ground beneath your feet is bare. Where once thick snow had muffled every step, now lies only frozen earth, hard and dry, cracked like old leather. No puddles, no runoff, no slush. The snow did not melt. It vanished, pulled away like a sheet, leaving the world naked and brittle. The villagers gather in the clearing, their faces drawn, expressions carved in stone. A hush has settled over the huts, heavier than before. Even the children, what few remain, do not speak. They look to the sky as if expecting it to open and speak. But the sky, as always, is silent. You stand beside Edon, your breath pluming faintly in the cold air. He squints toward the tree line, jaw clenched, the weight of his axe resting against his shoulder. He says nothing, but you feel it, the same question blooming in every chest around the fire. What does it mean? The girl with the drawings, her name is Merwin. You learn it from her mother, who speaks only when forced, has now painted the same spiral onto the door of their hut. Ash and water, a thick gray coil coiling inward with no end. She works in silence, eyes wide and unblinking, as if something guides her hand. No one stops her. Some begin to copy it. By sundown, the symbol appears on 5 more doors. You do not draw it, but you think about it. That night, a sound returns, not the wind, not the cracking of frost-laden branches, not the distant, guttural howl of whatever roams beyond the trees. No, this is different. A bell. Faint, uneven. It comes in pulses, 3 slow tolls, then silence, then again, then nothing. It echoes from the north, where the land rises into low hills, where no village lies, no church, no chapel, nothing but ruins and trees and the long-forgotten bones of forgotten roads. Aiden hears it too. He stands in the doorway of his hut, listening. His eyes do not blink. The bell sounds again, 3 slow notes. He turns back inside without a word and douses the fire. The rest of the village follows. By the next morning, the bells have stopped, but something has changed. The river has thawed. Not completely, just a narrow channel through the center, the ice curling away as if sliced by invisible blades. The water flows slowly, dark and thick, its surface reflecting the sky like bruised glass. A group gathers near the edge. They speak in low tones. Some want to follow the water northward, toward the sound of the bells. They say it is a sign, that something is changing, that perhaps warmth is returning, perhaps spring is finally trying to wake. Others disagree. They remember the stranger. They remember the missing girl. They remember that things which lure you into the woods in the year 536 rarely mean salvation. Still, 3 men leave before noon. They take food, ropes, knives. One wears a silver cross around his neck. Another carries a horn carved from bone. They promise to return in 2 days. No one believes them. That evening, you sit beside the fire with Merwin and her mother. The girl draws again, this time in the dirt, with a finger hardened by frostbite. Her lines are more detailed now. A figure with many legs, another with arms too long for its body, shapes that look like doorways or windows or eyes. She doesn't look at what she draws. She watches you and smiles. You do not sleep well. You dream of the river, not as it is, but as it was, wide and gleaming, filled with boats, men shouting, laughing, women washing cloth on smooth stones, children playing in the shallows, a village full of life, music, color. And then the sky begins to darken. The clouds do not roll in, they bleed. A shadow pours downward, blotting out the sun, swallowing the village. The river turns black. The boats sink. The people do not scream, they kneel, as if they've done this before. You wake to the sound of fire crackling too loud. Someone is shouting outside. You throw on your cloak and rush into the open. Smoke curls from the hut nearest the well, the roof ablaze, flames licking the sky in eerie silence. A woman stumbles from the doorway, coughing. Her husband drags their son behind him, the boy limp, unconscious. No one saw the fire start. There is no wind, no lightning, no stray embers from a hearth. The snow, which might have smothered it, is gone. You and Aiden help form a line. Buckets filled from the river, passed hand to hand. The flames die slowly, stubbornly, as if they burn not just wood, but memory. When it is done, the hut is a skeleton. Inside, amid the ash, someone finds a symbol. Not the spiral, a new one. A circle with jagged lines radiating outward like a crude sun or the eye of a storm, a mark no one recognizes. That night, Merwin does not draw. She sits quietly by the fire, her wooden doll held close, her eyes fixed on the dark, and the bells do not ring, but the silence they leave behind is somehow louder. The next day, only one of the three men returns. His name is Kerwin. He staggers into the village just after dusk, alone, covered in mud and scratches. His eyes are wide and red. He breathes in short gasps. He says nothing until he's by the fire, a cup of broth trembling in his hands. The others? Gone. He doesn't know how. They walked for hours, following the river, until they found a path lined with stones. The trees changed, the light changed, even the air changed, became heavy, metallic. Then they heard it, a humming low and constant like wind through bone. And then they were alone. No signs, no voices, no footprints, just gone. He ran. He doesn't remember how he got back. When he finally sleeps, he curls into himself like a child. He does not wake once during the night, and in the morning, he is gone again, not vanished, dead. Frozen beside the river, his mouth open, his skin white as milk. The villagers bury him quickly, and no one speaks of the bells again. They bury Kerwin under the black roots of an old tree. No stones, no markings, just a mound of earth packed tight with frozen hands, a silence too dense to allow words. Adon does not offer a prayer. No one sings. Merwin watches from afar, her wooden doll tucked under one arm, her head tilted slightly, as though she's listening to something no one else can hear. When the villagers return to the clearing, the air feels colder than before, not in temperature, but in presence, the kind of cold that has nothing to do with snow or wind, a stillness that nestles behind the ribs, an absence of life that lingers in the shadows. The fire is rebuilt, slowly, ritualistically, each log placed with care, each spark coaxed with breath and patience. It feels like more than warmth now. It feels like defiance. That night, a voice is heard, not loud, not sharp, but unmistakably human. It comes just before dawn from the edge of the eastern woods. A woman's voice, raw and thin, calling a name over and over again. You do not recognize it, neither do the others. But the voice does not stop. Aiden rises, axe in hand, and disappears into the mist without a word. Two others follow. You stay. The voice fades before sunrise. They return empty-handed. No tracks, no woman, just the echo of her voice still clinging to the air. Over the next few days, strange signs appear, not in the village, but near it. On the trees, handprints, too large, some with 6 fingers, always high on the trunk, as if made by something standing tall. On the river stones, claw marks etched deep into the rock, impossible to fake. And in the soil behind the well, a shape drawn with charcoal, 2 intersecting circles, forming a crude hourglass. No one speaks of them, but more doors are marked with spirals now, even Aidan's. You try to ask him about it one night by the fire, but he just stares at the flames, unmoving. When you press gently, why the symbol, what it means, he simply shakes his head. It's not for now, he says, then nothing more. The days feel shorter now, though the light barely changes, a kind of shrinking in the bones, as if the world is curling inward, folding in on itself to keep warm. And then one morning, a new hut stands at the edge of the village. No one built it. You're certain of that. You've seen every piece of wood, every rope, every pair of hands. Nothing is made without need, nothing without effort. But this one, small triangular, built in the old way with bent branches and bark, was not there the night before. Merwin finds it first. She walks right up to it, unafraid, and stands there for a long time, watching, listening. You call out to her gently. She turns and says only, "It's hollow," then returns to her mother's side. You go to the hut with Aidan. He circles it slowly, carefully. The structure is crude but precise. Not a child's shelter, not a joke. No footprints lead to it. The door is low and narrow, too small for a grown man. Inside, nothing. No bedding, no fire pit, no offerings. Just dirt and a smell. Not decay, not mold. Something metallic, old. The hut is left untouched. No one goes near it again. That evening, the third fire is relit after many days of silence. The villagers sit closer than before, their eyes constantly scanning the woods. The boy who once played the flute now clutches his bone talisman so tightly that his knuckles whiten. He does not look up. He does not blink. You sit beside him, the warmth of the flames barely reaching your skin. You think of the river, of the bells, of Kerwin and the woman's voice, of the marks, the hut, the handprints on trees. You think of Merwin and the things she sees before they happen, and you begin to wonder, quietly, reluctantly, if this is no longer the worst year to be alive, but simply the first of many. The frost returns on the 10th morning. It arrives not as snow, but as a delicate film upon everything, on bark, on stone, on skin. A white lace of ice, fine and crystalline, so thin it shimmers like glass. The villagers walk more carefully now, as if afraid the world beneath them might crack open and reveal some deeper, darker truth. The hut at the edge of the village remains, unmoved, untouched. At night, its silhouette flickers against the firelight, and though no one speaks of it, no one has dared dismantle it either. It has become part of the village now, like the well, the river, the trees. Its presence accepted, if not understood. Merwin passes it each morning on her way to gather wood chips, never stopping, never hurrying, just passing. Her fingers are raw and red, and she no longer carries her doll. When asked about it, she shrugs. "It went inside," she says once, and nothing more. Edan grows more restless. He no longer joins in the evening meals. He walks the perimeter of the village at odd hours, alone, always with the axe. His cloak, once worn against the cold, now hangs from his shoulders like a second skin, torn, stiff, unwashed. You hear him muttering sometimes, not to others, not to himself, to the trees, short bursts of speech, repeated names, questions, warnings. It is as if he's speaking to something hidden just beyond the branches, something that listens but never replies. One evening, he returns from the forest with a new mark carved into his arm, a circle of dots, 7, pressed into the flesh with the point of a blade, scabbed over but fresh. He sees your concern and offers no explanation, just sits by the fire, stares into it, and whispers under his breath. The villagers begin to avoid him. The food supply dwindles further. There is talk of leaving. It begins in hushed corners, whispers between mothers, a few of the younger men. Talk of traveling south toward the old Roman roads, toward the ruins of distant cities. Maybe there are people there, maybe warmth, maybe answers. But the elders shake their heads. "We're already ghosts here," one of them murmurs. "The forest won't let us leave." The village begins to fracture, not in violence, not yet, but in silence. Fires are lit farther apart. Meals are taken in smaller groups. Children no longer play. The flute boy, once a source of quiet song, sits alone by the river now, humming tuneless notes into his cupped hands. You try to speak with him. He doesn't look at you. He only whispers. The sound is under the water now. That night the dreams return. Not scattered fragments, but something clear. A path through a dense forest. Fog curling low. Shapes flitting at the edge of vision. And ahead, always ahead, the hut. But different this time. Taller. Its roof crowned with bones. A door carved with spirals and sunbursts. And inside, you never see what's inside. You wake with blood in your nose and a sharp pain behind your eyes. Others have similar dreams. You hear them whisper in the dark, comparing details without knowing they are doing it. The shapes in the woods, the path through the frost, the door, the quiet inside. Something is drawing them, drawing all of you. On the 12th day since the frost returned, Aiden disappears. He leaves no sign of struggle. His axe is missing, his bed undisturbed. But the door to the strange hut is open, not wide, just enough to see that it has changed. Inside, where once there was only dirt, now lies a fur cloak. Old, stained, familiar. You are the one who finds it. You call for him. You wait. Others gather, their faces drawn with dread. No one dares enter. No one dares close the door. That evening, the sun, if it can still be called that, glows faintly green through the clouds, an unnatural hue like fire seen through seawater. The sky pulses once, then stills. The old woman near the well begins to weep. She claims she saw Adan in the trees, not moving, not breathing, standing, facing the village with arms outstretched, palms upward, head tilted back as if listening for a sound that never came. No one finds him, no one looks, but more marks appear the next morning, 7 circles, scratched into wood, onto stone, etched with charcoal onto the riverbank. And Merwin has drawn something new in the dirt. A tree, split down the middle, one half barren, its branches black and twisted, the other half hollow, filled with eyes. At the bottom a man stands, with no face, only the spiral carved into his chest. She looks up at you as you kneel to examine it, her voice soft. "He's waiting now," she says, in the white between the trees. And then she walks away. The 13th day brings wind. Not the gentle kind that moves leaves or carries the smell of rain, but a wind that grates like stone on stone. It rolls through the village before sunrise, rattling shutters and shaking branches, low and guttural, as if pulled from the throat of the earth itself. The sky churns with dirty clouds, green and bruised purple, and the cold carries a scent no one can name. Sharp, metallic, bitter. People do not speak. They wrap their cloaks tighter, eyes turned downward. Even the fire seems subdued, their flames wavering uncertainly, as if afraid to stretch too high. The door to the strange hut remains open. No one has gone inside. Not since Adam, but someone or something has. Each morning, something is different within it. A pile of stones arranged in a spiral, a small animal skull resting on a bed of moss, a feather pinned to the wall with a sharpened stick, never the same object twice, never any sound, any movement, any sign of how it appeared. That day, Merwin begins to speak to someone who isn't there. Her mother watches, pale and still, too frightened to interrupt. The girl walks the perimeter of the village, whispering softly. Her hands move as if weaving thread. She makes shapes in the air, delicate and strange. She's making offerings, her mother says when you ask. To what? You whisper. But the woman only shakes her head and walks away. That night, you hear footsteps outside your hut. Slow, heavy, deliberate. You rise, carefully clutching a blade Aiden once gave you, a crude thing, dull at the edge but solid in weight. You peer through the cracks in the wall. Nothing, but the footsteps continue, circling, always just beyond your sight. And then they stop. You step outside. The clearing is empty. The wind has vanished, but beneath your door, etched into the frost with something sharp, is a mark. Not a spiral, not a circle, a line, vertical, simple, clean, and at the top, a single, perfect dot. You scrape it away and say nothing. At dawn, the trees have changed. They are closer. You don't notice it at first. It's a subtle shift, but something in the light feels wrong, too crowded. When you walk toward the edge of the village, you realize it. The trees are now only a few steps beyond the last hut. Where once there had been 20 feet of clearing, now there are 3. And they're still. Too still. The wind doesn't reach them. The branches don't sway. Even when touched, they barely move. Their bark is damp and cold. Some are marked with cuts, small, precise incisions, almost surgical. Others have faces carved into them, mouths open, eyes closed. You gather the villagers. They see it too. No one speaks for a long time. Then someone suggests burning them. The idea dies quickly. The trees will not burn. A group tries, building a fire from branches, dry leaves, kindling. But as soon as the flame touches the wood, it dies. Snuffed. Not smothered. Extinguished. The air around the fire chills. Breath fogs. One of the men begins to bleed from his nose. Another faints. The fire pit goes dark. They do not try again. That night, the 3rd fire in the village is allowed to die. No one dares relight it. Instead, everyone gathers around the central flame. They sleep sitting up, cloaks drawn, blades in hand, eyes darting toward the edge of the dark. No one mentions Adam, or the bells, or the shifting hut. The old woman by the well begins to chant, low, repetitive words in a language no one recognizes. She does not stop until her voice gives out. Then she hums, a single note, over and over. You sleep little, and when you do, your dreams are no longer visions. They are memories, but not your own. You walk down corridors made of bark, the walls pulsing like breath. Faces carved into the surface watch you as you pass. You carry a bundle in your arms, warm, heavy, alive. You cannot see it, but you know it is precious. Outside, a storm churns, not wind or rain, but voices, countless, rising into a crescendo of grief. You reach a door, not made of wood, not stone, something ancient. It opens for you. And inside, the spiral waits. It glows softly, like embers beneath ash. When you wake, your hands are black with soot. No fire touched you. No ash is near, but your hands are stained just the same. And the hut? The door is closed now, but smoke rises from its chimney. The smoke curls upward like a question that no one dares ask. Thin and pale at first, barely visible against the overcast sky, but undeniably there. A living line drifting from the small chimney of the hut that no one built, the hut that should be empty. The hut where Adon left behind his cloak and never returned. It burns without firewood. No one has placed logs inside. No embers have been seen. Yet the smoke rises steady, unwavering, like a thread stitching the earth to the dead sky above. By noon, it carries a scent. Not wood smoke, not flesh, something floral. Faintly sweet like crushed petals left too long in the sun. The scent turns heads, stirs whispers. Children cry without knowing why. One woman, a midwife who has delivered every child in the village for 2 decades, collapses beside the well and weeps into her hands. Merwin stands outside the hut for hours. She doesn't move, doesn't knock, doesn't speak. Her face is blank, but her fingers twitch, tracing invisible lines into the air. Spirals, circles, a downward triangle. You approach her carefully. "Merwin," you say gently, "what do you see?" She doesn't look at you, doesn't blink, but her mouth moves. "He's inside," she whispers. "Not Aiden, the other one." "Who?" you ask. She finally turns her head. Her eyes are clear, focused, unblinking. "The listener." Then she walks away. You don't follow her. You don't go near the hut again that day. That night, the fire in the center of the village struggles to stay alive. The wood burns too fast and the flames turn an odd shade of green around the edges. Sparks float upward and vanish before reaching the smoke-choked air. The heat is weaker than it should be. People draw closer, shoulders touching, hands trembling, eyes darting toward the hut at the edge. No one speaks of it, but everyone feels it. You try to sleep. You fail. Sometime after midnight, you hear singing. Faint, distant. A woman's voice, or something trying to sound like one. It comes from the woods, not from the east where the path once led to the river, not from the north where the bells rang and the men disappeared, from the south. From the place the trees now stand, too close, too tall. The voice is not mournful. It does not plead. It invites. And that is worse. You rise and step outside. A few others have heard it too. The boy with the bone talisman, the old woman near the well, even Merwin, who stands barefoot in the frost, arms hanging at her sides, her breath steady. "It's calling," she says. "To what?" you ask, your own voice hushed. "To everything," she replies. "To us, to the bones, to the names we forgot." You look around. The trees do not move. The sky remains dim and still, but something has shifted. The ground hums beneath your feet faintly. The snow that once vanished has returned in specks like ash falling upward, then drifting down again. The singing continues until just before dawn. When the light returns, what little there is, the hut's door is open once more. A rope lies coiled at its threshold, thick, braided, black, wet. No one touches it. Later, a young man goes missing. His name is Talan. He was strong, quiet, careful. He never strayed far, never took watch alone. But now his bed is empty. His knife remains by the door. His boots are gone. They find his tracks leading to the hut, and then stopping, not vanishing, stopping. As if he reached the doorway, paused, and ceased to exist. No one speaks his name aloud. Not that day, not the next. But more symbols appear, etched into bark, scratched into stones, drawn in mud. The same shapes Merwin traced in the air now spread like a language across the village, marks of warning or greeting, or perhaps both. Spirals that end in sharp points, circles split down the middle by a jagged line. And now a new one, a face, oval, blank, with ears far too large and no mouth. You find it on your door one morning. You try to scrub it away, but it clings to the wood like a stain. That night, Merwin does not speak. She hums, a low note, deep and steady. It vibrates in your bones. Others begin to hum with her, one by one, until the whole village is humming in unison, eyes closed, faces turned slightly toward the hut. The fire burns lower. The air grows thick, and the smoke from the hut sweetens, stronger now, not pleasant, not floral, sickly sweet, like rot behind perfume. You cover your mouth with your cloak. You try not to breathe, but still the humming spreads, and still the listener waits. By the 14th morning, no one speaks. The silence is not agreed upon, not declared. It simply happens. A stillness so complete it feels deliberate. A quiet thicker than fog, more binding than rope. Words, once a thread of comfort in the village, have unraveled into dust. Even the old woman at the well no longer hums. She stares instead, always toward the hut. The fire pit remains lit, barely. The flames waver without wind, rising only to sink again, flickering like a dying thought. The light it casts is no longer orange but tinged with gray, casting shadows that no longer align with bodies. Shadows that linger too long after their owners have moved. You spend most of the day watching the people, watching the hut, watching the trees that continue to edge closer. They are just steps away now. Branches scrape lightly against the outermost huts, and bark has begun to grow along the base of one wall, curling into the stone-like fingers. No one cuts it, no one touches it, and no animals remain. The last of the chickens is gone. The goats vanished days ago. Even birds, crows, sparrows, hawks, have stopped crossing the sky. It is empty above you, as if flight itself has been abandoned. You venture to the river, though fewer dare go now. The current is slow, sluggish. Its surface ripples not with wind, but from something beneath, shifting without ever breaking the surface. A shape, dark and massive, moves under the ice-crusted film, turning once, then vanishing. You do not linger. By late afternoon, Merwin climbs onto the roof of her hut. She does so calmly, barefoot, her hair tangled, her hands coated in soot. In one, she carries a small bowl of water. In the other, a sprig of dead lavender wrapped in twine. She pours the water in a slow circle around herself. Then she lays flat, face upward, arms spread. She stays there as the sky darkens. Her mother watches from below, saying nothing, eyes hollow. No one pulls the child down, because some part of you, of all of you, knows it is not madness. It is ceremony. When night falls, something arrives. Not a creature, not a storm, a sound. Not the humming this time, not the singing, a thrum, a heartbeat, impossibly slow, impossibly deep. It begins low in the chest, felt more than heard. A pulsing that spreads into your limbs, your stomach, your jaw. It does not match your own heart. It eclipses it, slows it, overwrites it. The villagers feel it too. You see them pause mid-step, heads tilting, mouths slightly ajar. The pulse continues, a pause, then again and again. The door to the hut is wide open now. You do not remember seeing it open. Inside, the fire glows unnaturally bright, not flickering, a still, steady light. Cold white humming in rhythm with the pulse. You do not approach, you do not move at all. Because now, just beyond the tree line, you see them. Figures, not shadows, not illusions. They stand tall, taller than men, their limbs narrow, faces indistinct. Cloaked not in fabric, but in movement. Constant, subtle motion, like mist coiled into form. Their eyes, if they have them, do not shine. They absorb. They do not speak. They do not cross into the village. Not yet, but they watch. And the pulse continues. By morning, Merwin is gone from the roof. No footsteps, no sign of descent. Only the bowl and the lavender, arranged neatly in the place where her body had been. A single spiral is burned into the wood beneath them. The villagers do not search. They do not weep. They begin to mark their doors again. New symbols, more complex, intricate loops and mirrored shapes, all beginning and ending in the same place. The same symbol now burns faintly into your skin. Your left forearm. You didn't place it there. No one did. It itches softly, warm to the touch. You cover it with your sleeve and say nothing. Later, when you lift your head toward the dim, shrouded sky, you see that the smoke from the hut has thickened. It rises not in a column, but in strands, twisting, weaving, forming something too large to see fully, too high to name. It does not drift away. It hangs like a veil or a door. By the 15th day, the village begins to lean. Not the structures. They remain upright, though wear and weather have gnawed at every beam and post. No, the lean is subtler. It is in the angles of the paths, the way the ground dips slightly toward the hut at the edge. It is in the way people walk, tilting imperceptibly as if pulled by some slow gravity. Even when standing still, you feel it. A tension in your calves, a slight imbalance in your spine. The earth is shifting, not visibly, not in tremors or cracks, but in direction. Everything is turning toward the hut, and the forest has swallowed the last of the clearing. The trees now press against the village walls. Their roots creep into foundations. Their branches brush windows, tapping softly in the early morning hours like fingers too long for any human hand. One hut has already been overtaken, its roof caved under the weight of bark and vine. The family who lived there has not relocated. They simply stand outside, unmoving, staring at the ruin. Each day, from sunrise to whatever this gray twilight has become. They do not speak. They do not eat. They do not move when the cold stiffens their joints or when the frost clings to their skin. Only their eyes move, tracing something no one else sees. The pulse continues. Not always, but often. A rhythm that arrives without warning, passing through you like a slow wave of memory. It leaves behind shivers, visions, fragments of thought not your own. You begin to recall things that never happened. An altar made of salt and feathers. A language spoken in dreams, carved into bones. A song with no melody, hummed by a mother whose face you cannot picture. And always behind those memories, the veil. That great curtain of smoke and ash rising from the hut, now thicker, now darker, shaped not by wind but by will. One night, the villagers gather in silence. No fire is lit. They sit in a circle, knees touching, hands clasped, eyes closed. They do not speak. They do not pray. They listen. You sit among them, though no one invites you. Your presence is neither welcomed nor rejected. You have become part of the silence, an echo caught between other echoes. The ground beneath the circle is warm. You feel it, faint but real, heat radiating upward, slow and steady like the breath of a slumbering beast. And then you hear it, a voice, not with ears, with bone. It speaks not in words but in understanding, in weight, in pressure. It asks nothing, it offers nothing, it simply is, and it sees you. When the circle breaks, dawn has not come. It never really does anymore, just a paler shade of shadow moving across the sky. You find a mark on your palm when you wake, not burned, not carved, risen, as if your skin grew it from within. The shape is unfamiliar, interlocking loops, twisting inward, ending in a single point. It stings when touched, glows faintly when pressed to the ground. You do not show it to the others, but you know they bear marks of their own. That day, the boy with the talisman begins to speak again. His voice is hoarse from silence. He says only one sentence. We are remembering forward. Then he walks into the forest and does not return. No one follows. His talisman is found later at the base of a tree, split in half. Inside, tucked between the broken pieces of bone, is a tooth, not human, not animal. Ivory white, perfectly round with a spiral etched across its base. The old woman at the well places it in her mouth. She doesn't chew. She doesn't swallow. She just holds it there, lips closed, eyes wide. From that day on, she does not move again, but her skin does not decay. The frost does not touch her. She remains at the well, unmoving, unblinking, a statue of breath and memory. Each day, a new villager begins to still. They do not fall. They do not weep. They stop. One while pouring water, one while tending the fire. Another mid-step, halfway between her door and the river. Their eyes remain open, their chests rise and fall, but they are still, as if they have remembered their final moment and settled into it. You are afraid, but not of the stillness. You are afraid of the pull, because now you feel it more strongly than ever, in your legs when you walk, in your thoughts when you sleep, in the mark on your palm which burns hotter each time you near the hut, and in the dreams that are no longer dreams. In them, the veil is gone, and what lies beyond it is not horror, it is clarity, a place without hunger, without cold, without end. And you begin to wonder, is this the world ending, or is it the world becoming something else? On the 16th day, the sky changes color. It happens slowly, without spectacle. There is no storm, no crack of thunder, no unnatural sound to signal the shift. Just a subtle bleeding of tone, from ash to slate, from slate to deep violet. The kind of color you might find beneath a bruise. The light, if it can still be called that, becomes thick, molasses slow, heavy on the skin. It sticks to surfaces, drapes itself over rooftops and tree trunks. Everything looks dipped in ink. The villagers do not seem to notice, or if they do not care. Their movements are slower now, not just from exhaustion, but from something deeper, as if gravity has thickened around them, as if they are walking through water. Even speech, when it happens, is drawn out, syllables stretched thin. You feel it too. Lifting your arms takes effort. Blinking feels delayed. Your thoughts move differently, less linear, less sharp. They branch instead, overlapping, growing from each other like roots beneath frozen soil. Time blurs. The days no longer follow patterns. The sun no longer hints at a path. The trees no longer distinguish themselves from the village. One begins where the other ends, and the ground is no longer stable. Patches of it have begun to pulse, slow and rhythmic, like breath beneath stone. And the hut, it grows. Not taller, not wider, but deeper. Each time you glance toward it, it seems farther away, despite being in the same place. You walk toward it once, drawn by the low sound of chimes that now tinkle in its doorway. They sound like glass being touched by wind, soft, distant, fragile. But the closer you get, the more you feel the space around you stretch. Your legs grow tired after only a few steps. The air tightens. The hut leans away from you, not physically, but perceptibly, as though it does not yet permit your approach. You stop. You return, but it remains in the corner of your eye, and each time you look again, it appears slightly opened, the door wider, the interior darker. The smoke from its chimney now falls rather than rises, pooling around its foundation like fog. That evening, the people begin to shed their names. It begins with a man who once mended baskets. He stands by the fire, silent, while another calls to him, repeats his name, once, twice, a dozen times. The man only blinks, then slowly turns and says, "That's not who I was. That's not who I am." He does not offer a replacement. The others begin to do the same. One by one, they let their names slip from them, like cloaks laid on the ground. The names you had learned in whispers and gestures, in quiet shared meals and nods by the river, are now gone. And in their place, silence. No titles, no identifiers. Only presence, only shape. You try to hold on to yours, but even in your thoughts, your name feels less solid. A rope fraying. You write it in the dirt one morning and stare at it for a long time, but the letters look wrong, too shallow, too clean, as though they've never truly belonged to you. You wipe them away. The boy with the talisman, long gone, appears in your dreams again. But now he is older. His body is tall, thin, stretched beyond human proportion. His eyes are gone, but he sees you clearly. His hands hold water, but it does not fall. His voice hums the same slow pulse that you now hear in the trees, in the ground, in your own body. He tells you that the village is not dying. It is remembering. Reclaiming something it once was, long before stones were stacked and fire was named. You wake with soil in your mouth, cold and damp. You spit, then rise, and find that the well is dry. Not cracked, not broken, just empty. The water is gone, replaced by a tunnel of smooth stone, descending into darkness. No echo when you drop a pebble, no splash, just silence. And the reflection that looks up at you from the depths is not your own, not anymore. That day, the people begin to hum again. The same note, low, steady, unified. This time you join them, not by choice, by instinct. It rumbles from your chest without effort, without thought. Your throat vibrates, your bones resonate. And when the note stops, the village is changed. The trees have parted slightly. Not much, just enough to see beyond. A corridor of pine and yew, open like a mouth. A path, leading directly from the hut into the forest. No one walks it yet, but everyone sees it and everyone waits. That night, the hut pulses with light. It has no source. It simply glows from within, pale and slow, like a heartbeat in reverse. And for the first time, the smoke stops. The chimney is still. The veil has lifted. The door remains open, and something beyond it, something just out of sight, breathes your name, or what once was your name, or what your name is becoming. On the 17th day, the village exhales. It is not a sound, not a cry, not even a whisper, but a sensation, like the last shudder of a long-held breath finally released into the cold. Something lets go. Something shifts, not outwardly, not yet, but inside, deep within the chest of the land itself. The ground grows warm. Just beneath the surface, barely noticeable at first, a faint flush rising through your soles as you step out from the hut. You kneel, press your palm against the frozen soil, and feel it. The heartbeat again, closer now, stronger. The rhythm that once moved through the trees and the river now hums directly beneath your hand. The village is quiet. Even the usual murmurs, the ritual hums and wordless conversations have fallen away. People stand with hands open, as though waiting for rain, for light, for instruction. Their eyes do not search anymore. They look inward, fixed on something behind their own faces. The forest path remains, still open, still untouched. It waits like a throat. The trees that line it seem different than the rest, older but not worn, smooth without bark. They curve slightly inward, meeting above the path in a vaulted canopy. No snow touches them. No wind moves through them. The light between their trunks is dim but steady, as if something unseen glows beyond the next bend. You do not walk the path. Not yet. But each time you glance toward it, the air in your lungs grows thinner, as though your breath is drawn in that direction, stretched across some invisible thread. The hut is pulsing, now visibly. Its walls shift faintly, expanding and contracting with each wave of light. The door remains wide, but the space inside seems deeper, more cavernous. You look into it once, just for a moment, and see not a room but a hallway descending in slow spirals, ribbed like the inside of a great shell. You step back. That night, the village gathers again. This time, not around the central fire. There is no fire. The warmth beneath the earth now sustains. Instead, they gather at the path's entrance where the forest has opened and sit in a wide arc around the beginning of the trail. The air is filled with a low tone, not human now, not fully. It quivers at the edge of hearing, like the sound of stones submerged in water, shifting softly in the current. No one speaks. No one looks away. Then the first villager rises. A woman, old but strong. The one who once tended to the herbs and smoked meats in the autumn months. Her name was Hild, though she has not used it in many days. She carries nothing. No cloak, no bundle, no blade. Only herself. She steps onto the path, and the air thickens. not painfully, not ominously, with reverence, like the silence of a chapel when breath is held in awe. She walks slowly, and as she passes beneath the arch of trees, the forest does not swallow her. It accepts her. The light shifts slightly. The branches above her part just enough for one long beam of dim violet to fall across her shoulders. She vanishes beyond the bend. No scream, no flash, no trace, only quiet. After her another rises, then two more, then five. Each walks alone, each leaves nothing behind, and the path remains open. You do not move, not yet. The village continues to dissolve. By morning, fewer than a dozen remain. Some sit near their huts, eyes closed, palms to the earth. Others kneel by the well, which now pulses with faint light from below, a slow shimmer that ripples across the stone like oil on water. Merwin's mother remains, but Merwin herself does not. You find a spiral drawn in ash beside her hut, more delicate than any before. It begins at the threshold and leads away, not toward the hut, not toward the forest, but upward, traced onto the wall like a map of ascent. Her doll lies at the center, its arms spread wide. You do not touch it. Instead, you walk the perimeter of the village, not to check for safety. There is no fear anymore. But to remember, the huts lean more now, not because they're falling, but because the earth has tilted. The village is no longer level. Everything points inward, toward the hut, toward the path, toward something vast and waiting. You pass the place where the fire once burned. The stones that marked its edge are gone. The soil is smooth there now, polished, as though countless hands had passed across it. In the center is a mark, a spiral within a spiral, still glowing faintly. You kneel beside it. The warmth beneath the ground is stronger here, almost hot. Your hand trembles as you place it down. The heartbeat returns. Not alien anymore. You feel it match your own, aligns you. And for a moment, you are no longer here. You are beneath the village, in the spiral hallway. The walls breathe. Light seeps through the stone like honey through cracked glass. And ahead, far ahead, something vast unfurls. Not cruel, not kind, just endless. Waiting. You draw your hand back. Your mark glows brighter. And somewhere behind you, the hut's door creaks again. Not wider, not louder, just enough. Just enough. On the 17th day, the village exhales. It is not a sound, not a cry, not even a whisper, but a sensation, like the last shudder of a long-held breath finally released into the cold. Something lets go. Something shifts, not outwardly, not yet, but inside, deep within the chest of the land itself. The ground grows warm, just beneath the surface, barely noticeable at first, a faint flush rising through your soles as you step out from the hut. You kneel, press your palm against the frozen soil, and feel it, the heartbeat again, closer now, stronger. The rhythm that once moved through the trees and the river now hums directly beneath your hand. The village is quiet. Even the usual murmurs, the ritual hums and wordless conversations have fallen away. People stand with hands open, as though waiting for rain, for light, for instruction. Their eyes do not search anymore. They look inward, fixed on something behind their own faces. The forest path remains, still open, still untouched. It waits like a throat. The trees that line it seem different than the rest, older but not worn. Smooth, without bark. They curve slightly inward, meeting above the path in a vaulted canopy. No snow touches them. No wind moves through them. The light between their trunks is dim but steady, as if something unseen glows beyond the next bend. You do not walk the path, not yet. But each time you glance toward it, the air in your lungs grows thinner, as though your breath is drawn in that direction, stretched across some invisible thread. The hut is pulsing, now visibly. Its walls shift faintly, expanding and contracting with each wave of light. The door remains wide, but the space inside seems deeper, more cavernous. You look into it once, just for a moment, and see not a room, but a hallway descending in slow spirals, ribbed like the inside of a great shell. You step back. That night, the village gathers again. This time, not around the central fire. There is no fire. The warmth beneath the earth now sustains. Instead, they gather at the path's entrance, where the forest has opened, and sit in a wide arc around the beginning of the trail. The air is filled with a low tone, not human now, not fully. It quivers at the edge of hearing, like the sound of stones submerged in water, shifting softly in the current. No one speaks, no one looks away. Then the first villager rises, a woman, old but strong, the one who once tended to the herbs and smoked meats in the autumn months. Her name was Hild, though she has not used it in many days. She carries nothing, no cloak, no bundle, no blade, only herself. She steps onto the path, and the air thickens, not painfully, not ominously, with reverence, like the silence of a chapel when breath is held in awe. She walks slowly, and as she passes beneath the arch of trees, the forest does not swallow her. It accepts her. The light shifts slightly. The branches above her part just enough for one long beam of dim violet to fall across her shoulders. She vanishes beyond the bend. No scream, no flash, no trace, only quiet. After her, another rises, then two more, then five. Each walks alone. Each leaves nothing behind, and the path remains open. You do not move. Not yet. The village continues to dissolve. By morning, fewer than a dozen remain. Some sit near their huts, eyes closed, palms to the earth. Others kneel by the well, which now pulses with faint light from below, a slow shimmer that ripples across the stone like oil on water. Merwin's mother remains, but Merwin herself does not. You find a spiral drawn in ash beside her hut, more delicate than any before. It begins at the threshold and leads away, not toward the hut, not toward the forest, but upward, traced onto the wall like a map of ascent. Her doll lies at the center, its arms spread wide. You do not touch it. Instead, you walk the perimeter of the village, not to check for safety. There is no fear anymore, but to remember. The huts lean more now, not because they're falling, but because the earth has tilted. The village is no longer level. Everything points inward, toward the hut, toward the path, toward something vast and waiting. You pass the place where the fire once burned. The stones that marked its edge are gone. The soil is smooth there now, polished, as though countless hands had passed across it. In the center is a mark, a spiral within a spiral, still glowing faintly. You kneel beside it. The warmth beneath the ground is stronger here, almost hot. Your hand trembles as you place it down. The heartbeat returns, not alien anymore. You feel it match your own. It slows you, aligns you, and for a moment you are no longer here. You are beneath the village in the spiral hallway. The walls breathe. Light seeps through the stone like honey through cracked glass. And ahead, far ahead, something vast unfurls. Not cruel, not kind, just endless, waiting. You draw your hand back. Your mark glows brighter, and somewhere behind you, the hut's door creaks again. Not wider, not louder, just enough, just enough. The path curves inward, not sharply, no abrupt turns or forks, but in a slow descending spiral barely perceptible at first. With each step, the world tilts ever so slightly, as though you are not walking across the forest but being drawn into it, along a line inscribed long before any tree grew, long before any name was spoken. The air changes. Not its temperature, there is no more cold or warmth here, but its quality. It grows thicker, not with mist or smoke, but with presence. You are not alone. You know this, though you hear nothing, see nothing, but something walks beside you now in parallel, just beyond the edge of perception. It mirrors your steps. It breathes when you breathe. The trees no longer resemble trees. Their trunks twist in unnatural symmetry, curved not by wind or age, but by intention. Each one leans toward the path, not randomly, but aligned with the others, as if bowing toward something deeper, something sacred. Their bark is smooth, veined with faint lines of amber light, pulsing gently in rhythm with the heartbeat that now lives within your bones. The hum deepens. It is no longer a sound, but a pressure, a pulse behind your eyes, in the space beneath your ribs, in the arches of your feet. You do not resist it. You couldn't if you tried, but it does not consume. It guides. Each step becomes easier, lighter. You feel yourself shedding weight, not body, but burden. Memories slip from you without pain. The cold nights, the empty bowls, the names of those who walked before you, all fading into soft shadow behind your eyes. You do not mourn their loss. They are not gone. They are simply behind you. You pass beneath a canopy of branches woven into impossible shapes. Arches, spirals, eyes. The leaves above glow faintly, not green, not gold, but something in between. A color that speaks of things you cannot name. The forest floor beneath you shimmers with soft light, like moonlit sand beneath shallow water. Your footprints leave no mark. Ahead, the path opens. It expands, not into a clearing, but into a chamber of nature's making. A hollow carved into the world, vast and domed, filled with a quiet so deep it presses against your ears like silence underwater. Roots hang like drapes from the ceiling, woven together into delicate cords. In the center stands a structure, not a building, not a shrine, but something older. It rises like stone, but it breathes. It is made of everything: wood, bone, soil, light. It coils upward like a spiral caught mid-turn, twisting delicately into a point that never quite arrives. Along its surface are shapes, symbols you've seen before but never understood. They shift as you watch. One moment a sun, the next a seed, the next a mouth, open and waiting. Others are already here. They kneel in stillness around the base, heads bowed, hands resting on the soft ground. Their bodies are pale, their eyes dark, their shapes familiar, but changed, refined. You recognize them not by name or face, but by presence. You feel their memories within you. You know you are home among them. And then the structure pulses. A single beat, deep and resonant. It reaches into your chest and gently lifts something out of you. An image, a moment, a memory you didn't know you were still holding. You see yourself as you were when you arrived in this strange year. Afraid, cold, alone. You see the first flicker of the gray sun, the frightened faces, the whispering trees. You see Ellen's eyes as she held her son. You see the boy with the flute, the hut with the smoke, the symbol carved into your palm. And then, you let it go. The pulse draws it into the spiral, and what remains is stillness. The others rise slowly. Their movements are smooth, synchronized, effortless. You join them without hesitation. The breath you take is no longer yours alone. It belongs to the space, to the forest, to the memory of the earth. Together, you begin to hum. The spiral glows, and it opens. Not like a door, not like a gate, but like an eye. A slow, graceful unfurling that reveals nothing you can see, but everything you understand. A wind moves through the chamber, warm and weightless. You do not speak, you do not cry, you do not ask what lies beyond, because you already know. And together you begin to walk into the spiral. Not forward, not upward, inward. Each step draws you further from shape, from sound, from self, until what was you becomes we, until what was then becomes now, until what was fear becomes return. The spiral does not end, it welcomes, and you are no longer walking, you are becoming. There is no direction here, no up, no down, no walls, no sky. The spiral through which you passed has unraveled into something wider, deeper, softer. A space without structure where motion feels more like thought than movement, and distance is measured not in steps, but in memory. Light surrounds you, though it has no source. It does not shine, it exists, a diffuse glow, neither bright nor dim, neither warm nor cold. It reveals nothing, and yet you see, not with eyes. Not as you once did. What you perceive now is total, slow, and whole, like absorbing meaning without language, or understanding a dream without needing to wake. You are not alone. You sense them, the others, shapes, energies, patterns, once bodies, once people. Their identities have melted into presence. You recognize them not by faces but by resonance. Their hum matches yours. Their thoughts brush against your own like branches in slow wind. Some are familiar. One echoes the feeling of Ellen's hand as she cupped her son's cheek. Another carries the rhythm of the boy's flute, not in sound but in structure, in the curve of his motion, the gentleness of his passing. You are within them. They are within you. There is no boundary. And yet you are still you, not in the way you once were. Not as a name, not as a shell of memory or burden, but as a note in a greater chord, a ripple in an endless tide. The spiral pulses again. You feel it far below and far within, as if the whole of this place breathes in time with you. Each breath expands your sense of scale. You are tiny, and yet you stretch across lifetimes. You feel yourself in rivers you never saw, in trees that fell before your birth. You sense the weight of mountains, the slowness of stone, and then you feel it. A presence, older than the spiral, older than breath. It does not move, and yet it surrounds. It does not speak, and yet it communicates. You feel it as silence, not absence, attention. It is the listener, not a being, not a deity, not a watcher with eyes, but a threshold, a point of contact. You understand it the way a seed understands gravity. The listener has no shape because it listens to all shapes. It holds all memory, not in storage, in being. And you feel it begin to unfold you, gently, curiously, as a book might be opened after centuries unread. It touches your moments. You're waking in the year 536. Your confusion, the lightless sky, the sickness, the trees, the bells, the hut, the spiral. It does not judge, it simply listens. And as it does, you begin to recall more. Things that never belonged to you, but were always waiting. You remember the first time the spiral opened, long before this body, long before this tongue. You remember standing on soil not yet hardened, beneath skies not yet dimmed. You remember being many, and you remember being one. You remember the silence before the first thought, and you feel joy, not happiness, not pleasure, joy, raw, bright, whole. A return not to a place, but to a becoming. You begin to dissolve, not into nothing, but into connection, into language that has no words, into sound that has no air, into time that no longer moves forward. And in this surrender, you feel everything lift, the cold, the hunger, the fear. They rise out of you like vapor and are gone. You have no mouth, but you sing. You have no hands, but you reach. You have no eyes, but you see. All around you, the others join. Together, your song folds into the listener. And for a moment that is neither brief nor eternal, everything is still. Not stopped, not ended, but still. And in that stillness, you realize this was never escape, never salvation, never punishment. This was memory, unfolding itself back into form. A spiral unwinding only to begin again. The 20th day, if it can be called that, arrives without transition. There is no sense of passing, no ticking of moments from one into the next, only the continuation of stillness, a steady tone humming beneath all sensation. You are neither awake nor asleep, neither present nor gone. You exist within the listener. Or perhaps, more precisely, the listener exists within you. And in this communion, time begins to reverse, not backward, not as memory, but as reformation. Patterns that once held your body together now stretch and reweave. You feel your own shape unmake and reform, not into something new, but something truer. The version of you that always existed behind skin, behind words, behind breath, you are remade, gently, deliberately. The listener asks nothing of you. It does not command, it only receives. And in that receiving, you give more than you knew you held. You offer the shape of your grief, the memory of watching the sun die behind a veil of ash, the echo of your footfalls through the forest where trees did not speak but listened, the way your breath shook when Ellen pressed her son's lifeless fingers to her lips, the brittle sound of frost cracking beneath the weight of footsteps that would never return. All of it flows into the spiral, and the spiral does not close, it expands. You become aware of others not as shapes, but as textures, as currents moving within the same sea. They pass through you and around you. You remember some by the resonance of their fear, others by the soft rhythm of their joy. One carries the scent of lavender, another glows with the memory of salt and stone. You are all here, the village, the forest, the river, the mountains that once stood beyond the horizon, all of it, held, not as pieces, but as a single breath. This is not heaven, it is not judgment, it is not the end. It is the convergence of awareness, a remembering. The listener does not watch from above. It is not high, it is not separate, it is beneath, within, among. It listens because that is its nature, and in being heard, you begin to understand something more. The year 536 was not the worst year. It was a door, a thinning, a soft moment in the crust of the world when forgetting gave way to return. The veil of ash, the cold sun, the failing crops, the illness, the silence. All of it was not punishment, but pause. A breath between chapters, a gentle unmaking of what had calcified. The world broke because it was ready to remember itself. And you, waking then, stepping into that time, were not lost. You were chosen, not in the way myths speak of heroes, but as one chosen by the spiral, not for greatness, but for presence, for witness. You were there to feel it, to carry it, to pass through it. The listener hums. You feel its vibration echo through the deepest place within you, a resonance so low it is almost stillness. And in that stillness, a thought unfolds, not from you, not from the others, from the listener itself. It does not form in words, but you understand. Do you wish to continue as you are? The question is not a test. There is no consequence in either choice. To continue means to become part of what follows, to dissolve fully, to release the concept of self, to be spiral and soil and song. To return means to carry, to take the memory back, to awaken once more into the husk of time, bearing knowledge as warmth, as burden, as seed. The choice is yours. You do not answer immediately. You drift, you revisit. Moments from before rise like bubbles, the way snow once fell in silence. The soft weight of a wooden bowl in your hands, the feel of a child's drawing traced into the frost. These memories are not sorrowful, they are sacred. And slowly, a choice settles in your heart, not as conclusion, but as alignment. You want to carry it. not for pride, not to speak of it, but because something must remember. And as that thought solidifies, the listener breathes through you once more, and you begin to fall, not down, not away, but inward again, contracting, forming, becoming. The spiral tightens, the light dims, and your shape returns. You return in silence, not with a sound, not with a crash, but with a stillness so complete that the world must adjust to accommodate you. It feels like waking from a dream too old to name, one that has slept in your bones longer than you've drawn breath. The forest is the first thing you feel, the scent of it, not the sharp tang of pine or the rot of fallen leaves, but something older. The deep mineral damp of roots that have never seen the sun, the quiet tension of stone that has listened for centuries. Your body, newly formed and yet ancient, lies curled among moss and soil. You are whole, you are cold, you are alive, but different. You move with care, not from weakness, but reverence. Each breath draws through lungs that remember more than air. Your eyes open and they do not seek light. They seek meaning, and they find it everywhere. Above you, the canopy hangs motionless, not dead but still, as though pausing in recognition. The sky is dim, not violet now, but soft gray, the color of memory just before it fades. No birds call, no wind stirs, but the forest is not empty. It watches, not with menace, with welcome. You sit up slowly. Your hands are your own again, familiar and strange all at once. The lines on your palms tell new stories, spirals and points, echoes of patterns seen beyond the veil. Your fingertips are darkened slightly, as though they have touched something that cannot be washed away. You are clothed, though not as before. The fabric is soft, earthy, not sewn, but formed, as if grown around you. It carries the scent of smoke, of stone warmed by breath, of the chamber beneath the forest floor. You run your fingers along the collar, and for a moment feel a pulse within it. Brief, gentle, you rise. Your legs remember. They do not tremble. They accept weight without complaint. You stand among trees you do not recognize, yet which feel known. Each trunk is twisted with symbols, marks like the ones Merwin once drew in the dirt, spirals within circles, split faces, mirrored lines. None of them frighten you now. They are greetings. A path lies ahead, not carved, not worn, but waiting. You walk it. The forest does not crowd you. It moves with you. Branches lean aside. Roots curve beneath your feet. You do not choose a direction. You follow the current as one follows the flow of thought or the pull of tide. The air is colder here, but it does not bite. You carry warmth within. After some time, though you cannot say how much, the path opens. Not wide, just enough. And there, in the hollow of a hill, you see it, the village. But it is not as it was. The huts remain, some leaning, some collapsed. The well stands still, its stones dark with moss, but everything is quieter, softer. The trees have embraced the edges, curling vines through thatch and timber, weaving life into decay. And there is no one, no voice, no fire, only echoes. You walk among the remnants. Each step calls something forward, an image, a feeling. Here the child once hummed by the fire. There the woman stood holding lavender in her fingers. You pass the hut that once opened without invitation, where smoke curled upward and spirals waited beneath ash. It is no longer there, just earth, untouched, clean. The air shifts and you pause. In the center of the village, where once a fire pit smoldered, there is now a spiral etched in stone. Not large, no more than a step across, carved deep into the soil and inlaid with something that glimmers faintly when you draw near, resin perhaps, or hardened sap. You kneel beside it, place your hand in the center, and feel the hum. Not loud, not forceful, but unmistakable. It recognizes you, and you in turn remember what you came back for. Not to rebuild, not to rule, not even to tell, but to hold, to keep, to carry the spiral in the shape of your steps, to be the vessel through which memory does not fade. You close your eyes and lower your forehead to the stone. The hum rises once, brief, like a breath shared. And you whisper, not aloud, but within, I remember. And the spiral responds, so do we. You remain there, kneeling until the light changes again. Not brighter, not darker, just deeper. And when you rise, you do not look back. You walk from the village, not as you were, not as you've been told, but as something new. A story in motion, a thought remembering itself, a witness of the wound the world became when it was ready to open. The 22nd day unfolds not with events, but with awareness. You move through the forest without destination. The path no longer guides, it receives. You walk not because you seek, but because the world has become a field of listening. Each footfall presses into earth that remembers your weight. Each breath enters air that bends slightly to meet your lungs. There is no resistance, only recognition. The forest has grown denser, yet it is easier to pass through. Trees do not block your way, they lean aside. Vines retract like drawn curtains, leaves part in silence. You begin to suspect this place is no longer bound by the same laws you once understood. Here, intention precedes geography. You rest beneath a stone arch that should not exist, massive, cracked with roots woven into its base. No tool could have carved it. It's not part of any ruined temple or forgotten wall. It is simply here, like a sentence in the middle of a page with no other words. Its curve bears markings you cannot read but understand nonetheless. The spiral, again, always the spiral. But now it shifts as you look at it, sometimes open, like an invitation, sometimes inward, like a closing eye. You place your hand on the stone. It hums faintly. It does not speak. But you remember something, a moment before your arrival in this world, one you'd forgotten in the terror of waking under the dead sky. You remember standing somewhere bright, not the spiral chamber, not the forest, somewhere beyond even that, a place where your name had not yet formed and your body was only an idea. There something asked you a question, not in language, but in image. It showed you the year 536, the dim sun, the hollowed people, the cold, the silence. And it asked, not will you save them? Not will you survive? Only this, will you feel it with them? And you had answered yes. You had come not to resist, but to witness, to suffer, to soften, to remember with them what the world forgets in comfort, that endings are not punishments, that silence is not failure, that breaking is how remembering begins. Your hand drops from the stone, the hum fades. You walk again, and the forest opens wider this time into a clearing that does not feel like part of the earth at all. It feels like a thought made real. The soil is black, polished, almost glass. No grass grows here, no wind stirs. At the center, a tree stands alone, tall, unmoving. Its bark is deep gray, etched with spirals that reach from root to crown. No branches, no leaves, just one slender trunk, smooth and solid, narrowing to a point high above your head. You know this tree. You do not know its name because it has never needed one. You have stood here before, not in this body, not in this time, but in another place that shares the same memory. You approach slowly. Each step makes no sound. At the base of the tree there is no altar, no door, only a depression in the soil shaped to receive a body curled in rest. You kneel beside it. You are not tired, but you understand what must be done. Not to sleep, to become. You place your hands in the soil. It is warm, not hot, not alive, just attentive. It accepts you. Your fingers sink slightly. You close your eyes, and the tree hums. A deeper tone than before, one that rises up through your arms, through your ribs, into the base of your skull. It does not ask. It does not guide. It remembers you, and you in turn remember everything. The cold of that first morning, the taste of roots boiled in ash water, the bell ringing in the woods, the hut, the flame that burned without wood, the face without eyes, the shape beneath the river, the path that opened when you were ready, the girl who drew what the sky could not speak, the hum that wrapped itself around your heartbeat and asked only that you listen. And now this tree, this place, this moment. The spiral, you realize, is not a path. It is a rhythm, a return, not a line that leads forward, but a curve that brings all things back to where they began, transformed, softened, opened. You lean your head against the trunk, and you speak not with words, but with presence. You offer yourself to the rhythm, not as a gift, not as a sacrifice, but as memory returned to the body of the world. And the tree accepts. Its hum deepens once more, and then stills. The clearing holds you. You do not vanish. You do not change. You remain. And in your stillness, the world listens. And the spiral, just beneath your ribs, continues to turn. The 23rd day is not marked by waking. There is no sleep to rise from, no edge to cross between dreaming and being. There is only presence, soft, vast, continuous. You remain seated at the base of the gray tree, your back resting against bark smooth as bone, your body cradled in the soil's gentle hollow. You have not spoken for some time now. You are not certain how long, but words have become unnecessary. The tree speaks in stillness. Its language is not sound but vibration, not symbol but sensation. Each hum that rises from its roots travels through your spine, through your blood, through the place just behind your sternum where something brighter now lives. It speaks of rain that fell 10,000 years ago, of seeds that never bloomed, of creatures that passed quietly into extinction, of stars born in silence and dying without ever being named. And in return, you speak back, not with intention, but by being here, by remembering, by listening in return. This now is your purpose, to hold the spiral open from within, to be the hinge between forgetting and form, to remain. The forest does not move, it waits, as it always has. From where you sit, you can feel its breadth, far beyond what eyes could see. The trees you once passed, now pressed together like ribs around a heart. The path you walked has faded into moss. The village is a faint ache in the roots. Its memory is safe. All of it has been gathered. Nothing was lost. Nothing ever is. Above you, the sky remains violet gray. The light has not shifted, but the color seems deeper now, as though you are seeing through more than atmosphere, as if the world above the world is beginning to show itself, like bones surfacing beneath worn cloth. You sense movement, not near you, not in the clearing, far beyond. A figure, faint, emerging at the forest's edge. It walks slowly, carefully. Its steps are unsure, not from fear, but from awe. You feel it as a tremor in the soil. Each footfall asks permission. Each breath carries the question, am I allowed to arrive? You do not rise. You do not call. You simply listen, and the tree listens with you. The figure draws closer. You begin to feel the shape of their memory, not the events of their life, but the pattern of it. The same spiral, coiled deep within, tight with loss, frayed with hunger, bright in one place, something small, a name perhaps, or a song that they never let go. You remember what it was like to carry only one lifetime. You remember the weight of being singular, the beauty of it, the fear, the courage. The figure crosses into the clearing. They pause. You do not need to see them to know them. You have known them 1,000 times, in 1,000 forms. They are what you were, and you are what they may become. They step forward again. Their eyes lift, and they see you, not with surprise, not with recognition, but with stillness. They do not run. They do not kneel. They only stand there, breathing. You feel the spiral in them shift, loosen, begin to open. The tree hums once, low and warm, and in that sound is welcome, not command, not invitation, just the soft acknowledgement the path continues, that the rhythm endures, that all arrivals are returns. The figure lowers their head, their palms touch the soil, and you feel it, the first spark of stillness settle in their chest as it once settled in yours. You do not speak. You are the listener now, the breath between spirals, the echo between forms. And as the wind begins, gentle and slow, moving through the clearing like a hand across the surface of water, the tree hums again. Not to you, not to the one who arrived, but to the space between you, to the becoming, to the spiral. The 24th day is not a day. It is a threshold. You no longer measure time in the language of hours or sunrises or shadows shifting on the ground. The forest no longer casts shade. The tree no longer drops leaves. The world has settled into a deeper rhythm, one that does not progress but pulses. You feel it in the clearing, beneath the soles of your feet, and in the bones of the one who has come. They have not spoken. They do not need to. They sit now across from you, mirroring your posture, their hands resting lightly on their knees, their breathing calm. Their eyes are closed, or open. It does not matter. They are here. You can feel them becoming still. And the forest, as always, listens. Around the edge of the clearing, more shapes gather, one by one. Not as intrusions, not as a crowd. They arrive like the settling of dust, like the return of scent to rain, like the moment a river forgets it is rushing. These shapes are not fully human, not anymore. They have passed through. They carry pieces of the spiral etched along their skin, luminous and faint, like stories worn smooth by touch. Some were once villagers, others older, others not born of your time. They do not greet, they do not gather around you. They take their places in a wide ring, still, silent, present. You understand now. You are the eye of the spiral, not the center, not the end, the stillness from which movement is born. You recall the first breath you took in this place, under the gray sky, in the cold soil, wrapped in confusion and fear. You recall the taste of root broth, the scrape of bark beneath your fingertips, the sound of a woman's grief when her child did not wake. You recall the boy's flute, the ash falling like snow, the bell that rang for no one. And you realize these were not signs of the world ending. They were the world exhaling, releasing, unfurling. The year 536 was not the worst year. It was the wound that let in the light, the silence that made room for remembering, the stillness before the spiral turned inward. You bow your head, not in reverence, not in prayer, but in alignment. And the tree responds. Its hum rises, gentle and immense, resonating through everything, not as sound, but as gravity. It draws not downward, but inward. Each pulse collapses the space between what was and what is. You feel your shape flicker, not vanish, but deepen. You are not disappearing. You are becoming more visible. To the forest, to the listener, to yourself. The spiral on the ground begins to glow, not brightly, just enough. It mirrors the spiral in your chest and in the others and in the unseen curve of the world itself. It is not a symbol. It is a memory, a map, a mouth. You look across at the one who arrived. They are ready. Their spiral has opened. They rise, slow and steady. Their eyes meet yours. And for the first time in all your days here, a smile forms, not of joy, not of triumph, but of recognition, of understanding. They step forward and place their hand on the tree. The tree accepts, the spiral shifts, and in a single breath, all of it folds inward. The village, the hunger, the sky, the silence, the path, the listener, the name you once had. It is not gone. It is inside you now, alive, living. And as you rise from the soil, no longer bound by time or shape, you carry it with you. Not to escape, not to teach, not to warn, but to be, to walk into the next spiral, to hum its shape into new earth, to listen when the next silence arrives. And so you step forward, the spiral closes behind you, and before you, an opening.